Hello, everybody, and welcome to this edition of Recap with Rep Jess. I hope you all are having a wonderful day so far. Today, as many of you know, is MLK Day, a day of service to honor and recognize the life and legacy of Martin Luther King Jr. And I think there's this temptation, particularly among white people, to sort of sanitize the legacy of MLK and to dilute the things that he was fighting for. And so I know, today there aren't as many opportunities to gather and serve our communities, but I do hope that we're renewing our commitment to fight racism wherever we find it, including in ourselves. I also want to draw your attention today to our vaccine town hall that's coming up here. I know that there's been a lot of questions about the vaccine, and I want to make sure that you all have the opportunity to ask those questions and to tune in. So I'm going to drop the link to register for that town hall in the comments here, but we'll have our health secretary there. We'll have other members of the PA House and Senate delegation. And it'll be a great opportunity to get answers to a lot of those questions that we have. So coming up next, we have our Rep Jess Top 5 rundown here. Coming in at the number 1 spot, we have the impending impeachment trial. So be sure to keep a close eye on the Senate coming up this week. In the number 2 spot is judicial gerrymandering. Now, for those of you who are not familiar, the House Republicans are currently pushing a bill that instead of allowing all Pennsylvania voters to pick our statewide judges, they want to create districts, which would mean that some voters' voices count more than others. This could undermine the checks and balances between the branches of our government, allow those in power to pick the voters that secure their majority, and open the door to the same gerrymandering that has made Pennsylvania a national example and plagued our state legislature for decades. What this would mean would be that, if you have a court case that is going up before one of these statewide courts, it's quite possible that one of the judges, or all of the judges making the decision, would be somebody that you hadn't voted for. So these are folks who set statewide precedent. We want to make sure that we're continuing to elect them statewide and not making them beholden to local interests. Coming in at number 3, Senator Brewster has finally been sworn in, which means that my constituents in Brentwood and North Baldwin and everybody else in the rest of his district finally have a state senator, so that's exciting. And at number 4, we have some insurrectionists in our Pennsylvania state legislature who've come under great public pressure, including from yours truly, to resign. And last but not least, President-elect Joe Biden has planned an ambitious first 100 days and beyond, which could have a substantially positive impact on people in our community, including a new COVID aid package for people, industries, and state and local governments that have been hard hit by COVID, publicly releasing a vaccine distribution plan, which would really help address some of this confusion and uncertainty that we're dealing with right now. 3, reversing corporate tax cuts, which would allow us to provide more aid to regular people who are struggling. Number 4, passing protections for our immigrant neighbors. 5, passing protections for our environment and investing in infrastructure to create family-sustaining jobs. And 6, building on the Affordable Care Act. So that was my top 5 rundown, and now we'll move on to some updates about our bills. So we've talked about before a couple of the bills that I'm working on, but the first one is this COVID-19 insurance coverage bill, which would make sure that insurance companies cover all of the costs, no cost sharing, no co-pays, none of that, related to COVID-19 testing, treatment, and prevention. It currently has 21 co-sponsors, and we'll be looking to introduce that legislation very soon. The other piece of legislation is a special education funding bill, which would help provide equity between charter schools and traditional brick and mortar schools when it comes to special education funding. This is a bill that would really help address some of the rising costs of special education in the districts that are not only overlapping with House District 36, but across the Commonwealth. That bill currently has 12 co-sponsors and is just about ready to be introduced as well. I'm also working on some legislation around LGBTQ rights. We've got a bill around non-discrimination that should be just about ready to be introduced. We've got one banning conversion therapy, And the last one, making sure that we're collecting data. So what would happen is there would be an optional box on state forms, making sure that, if you want to check that box indicating that you're part of the LGBTQ community, great, totally optional. But what this does is it helps us understand the needs of the community so that we're better able to address them. You can see which government services they're benefiting from and which ones they might need a little bit more. So that's the rundown on our bills. I also want to provide a little bit of an update on the vaccine situation. There has been quite a lot of confusion around this. As we know, it's not been entirely clear what the phases mean or where we're at in each phase, but we're currently moving through phase 1A. And there's some adjustments being made to 1B to better reflect what the federal government has passed down. So 1B would better reflect exactly what the federal government is saying. So it would be folks basically 65 and older, and then a bunch of different industries as well. I'm waiting on that updated list of industries, but hopefully I will have that for you all soon. And I will just bump again here to make sure that you all remember our COVID-19 virtual town hall. The link to register for that, again, is in the comments here. So make sure if you have any questions about that you are able to tune in to that as well. I also want to provide some updates on what's going on in the district. Oh, looks like we have a question here. How many alphabet phases in phase 1? There are 3. So it's 1B, or 1A, 1B, 1C, and then phase 2, which is basically everybody else who's not in those sub-phases of phase 1. And so as soon as I have that updated graphic laying out exactly who's in each phase, I will be sure to share that with you all. I'm hoping that I will have it later this week. We were waiting to get some clarity, I think, from the federal government on all of those. So as we're thinking about updates in the district, I want to say if you are having any issues with your unemployment or with other state services, please be sure to reach out to my office. You can see down at the bottom there, you can call that phone number, you can zip us an email, and we will be happy to help you with your unemployment. We want to make sure that you are getting exactly what you are entitled to be getting and without these constant delays. I've also sponsored a bill to ensure that we are addressing the problems with funding and with staffing in the unemployment office as well to make sure folks are getting what they need. The Paycheck Protection Program also has reopened here. You can see some of the information here about applying for this. Again, if this is something you're interested in, please feel free to reach out to my office. My throat is really dry today. Anyway, that is your Rep Jess recap. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your weekend. Take care.